The silence of space is never truly empty. Every pulse of light, every drifting speck, carries a secret older than humanity itself. When China's National Space Administration released their new deep space imagery last month, the world was supposed to see just another interstellar body passing through our solar system. Instead, what they revealed, or perhaps what they couldn't completely hide, has reignited the most controversial cosmic question of our time. What exactly is 3I/ATLAS? For years, NASA had maintained that 3I/ATLAS was merely a fragment, a wandering piece of interstellar debris shaped by gravity and chance. But China's newly processed images tell a different story, one that suggests precision, intention, and a geometry that nature rarely forms alone. The frames were captured not by chance, but by design. The Tianwen-4 Deep Space Array had been tracking the object since early approach, collecting multispectral data far beyond what NASA publicly released. When the first color-corrected frames leaked online, astrophotographers noticed something NASA's dataset seemed to omit entirely. The object wasn't irregular or elongated like the tumbling rock they described. It had edges. Edges that cast straight shadows, suggesting flat surfaces, symmetrical ridges, and possibly even panels. For a few hours before those images were scrubbed, the internet was alive with theories that ranged from ancient probes to derelict alien craft. In the official NASA repository, however, none of those frames appeared. Instead, a carefully curated sequence replaced them, grainy, blurred, conveniently overexposed. The contrast between both datasets was so dramatic that even professional analysts began to question whether something had been intentionally obscured. China, meanwhile, made no statement, neither confirming nor denying the anomalies. Silence, in this case, said more than any declaration. To understand why this revelation matters, we must go back to 2017 when humanity first met its cosmic visitor. Oumuamua entered the solar system like a ghost, moving too fast to be bound by the sun's gravity, accelerating in ways that defied physics. For a time, it seemed like a comet, yet it had no tail. It shimmered oddly, as if metallic. Dr. Avi Loeb's controversial suggestion that it might be artificial divided the scientific community, but it also opened a door that could never again be closed. Then, just a few years later, came 3I/ATLAS. A new wanderer, stranger than the first, larger in both mass and luminosity, with a reflectivity inconsistent with natural carbonaceous chondrites. And now, with China's new imagery, what was once speculation has started to feel like confirmation. Something about its structure, smooth planes, uniform protrusions, and hexagonal segments, suggests it was built, not born. Inside CNSA's encrypted archives, a whistleblower shared a string of internal memos referencing geometric albedo inconsistencies and structured reflectance anomalies. These terms, translated from Mandarin, are not typically used for comets. They are used for engineered materials. One scientist reportedly compared the readings to high-temperature alloys, the kind used in spacecraft shielding. That report never made it into the public release. In one image, the object's terminator line, the shadow dividing day and night, revealed a ridge running across its equator. Under enhanced contrast, that ridge appeared to be a seam, perfectly uniform across several kilometers. It was as though two halves of something once joined were now drifting as one. This discovery ignited speculation within underground astronomy circles that 3I/ATLAS might be hollow. If it is hollow, the question becomes, hollow for what purpose? Space does not favor hollowness unless it serves a design. When astronomers examined the object's tumbling pattern, they noted abrupt changes inconsistent with natural rotation. It seemed to adjust, tiny corrections, as if maintaining balance. NASA attributed this to outgassing. But China's infrared telemetry showed no heat signatures typical of sublimating ice. The correction was deliberate, not reactive. Meanwhile, deep within the Chinese National Astronomical Data Center, a team began comparing 3I/ATLAS's light curve against electromagnetic patterns emitted during its perihelion passage. They found harmonics, frequencies repeating every 42 minutes, structured like a code rather than noise. To most, this was static. To those who knew how to read it, it looked eerily like binary, an organized pulse that defied randomness. NASA's public data release excluded this segment entirely. Their statement claimed, instrument calibration noise, but an independent analysis by a European observatory confirmed the repetition pattern matched harmonic intervals similar to early radio transmissions from Earth's own satellites. China's scientists were the first to say it aloud. This thing was talking. The world didn't notice. Headlines barely mentioned 3I/ATLAS. It passed quietly through public consciousness while wars, elections, and scandals filled the airwaves. But behind closed doors, world governments convened private committees. For the first time since the SETI projects of the 1970s, data was classified not for national security, but for existential stability. Then came the second image leak. A composite mosaic from Tianwen's long-range optical array showed the object with unprecedented clarity. Its surface appeared to host patterns, interlocking hexagonal plates arranged like scales, each reflecting sunlight in a way that formed a tessellated grid. At first glance, it resembled carbon polymer panels, but deeper spectral scans indicated metallic traces never before observed in natural meteorites. That image vanished within hours of posting. The original server went offline, but copies had already spread across encrypted forums and private astrophotography networks. When experts enhanced the exposure, a faint engraving became visible, 6 angular markings repeating across the same latitude. Ancient language specialists, invited to interpret, claimed the shapes bore resemblance to Sumerian symbols for return and seed. Across the Pacific, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory issued an urgent clarification. The image was a fabrication, yet amateur radio astronomers confirmed the coordinates matched the object's known position. The denial only fueled suspicion. Why would NASA dismiss so aggressively something they could easily verify? The pattern of suppression grew undeniable. Files disappeared from online databases. Social media accounts posting about 3I/ATLAS were quietly suspended. Even academic papers referencing it faced abrupt retraction. Meanwhile, Chinese scientists continued releasing neutral, data-heavy updates. Never commentary, never speculation. But within those dry tables of numbers, the truth whispered through the decimals. By late October, radio observatories in Chile detected something new, a signal echoing from the direction of 3I/ATLAS. Unlike previous cosmic radio bursts, this one carried a consistent rhythm, resembling prime number intervals. Prime sequences are often proposed as universal markers of intelligence. Yet again, NASA called it coincidence. China did not respond. When fragments of the leaked correspondence between CNSA and NASA appeared on WikiLeaks, a single phrase stood out. Interpretive Protocol Stage 3, deflection denied. No one outside the agencies knows what Stage 3 means. But in context, it implied both agencies had been testing different hypotheses, one of artifact, one of rock. Someone had denied the deflection, the possibility that it was steering. At the University of Hong Kong, astrophysicist Li Zhen conducted independent light analysis using archived observation data. Her conclusion was damning. The rotation of 3I/ATLAS slowed dramatically after passing Jupiter. No known natural effect could explain such a deceleration without catastrophic fragmentation, unless, of course, it was being controlled. Li's paper never saw publication. 2 weeks later, she resigned, citing institutional pressure. In a private interview recorded before her departure, she said, "If 3I/ATLAS is what it appears to be, then it's not from another system, it's from an older chapter of our own." Her words ignited a firestorm of speculation about ancient technology, an echo of civilizations lost beyond recorded history. The connection to Mesopotamian texts, particularly the Epic of Gilgamesh, re-emerged. Those same myths spoke of beings descending from the stars, carrying knowledge, leaving behind artifacts buried in sand and stone. If one were to imagine such artifacts set adrift millennia ago, could one not eventually pass back by its cradle? The line between mythology and astronomy began to blur. Every frame of the Chinese dataset hinted at architecture, pillar-like shadows, repetitive angles, structural integrity that meteorites simply do not maintain. It was as though the object had weathered cosmic time intact. Inside NASA's unreleased briefings, leaked summaries suggested analysis teams used terms like structural voids, pressure stabilization zones, and energy containment shell. Those are not geological descriptors. They are engineering terms. The longer 3I/ATLAS lingered within telescope range, the more it seemed aware. Not conscious in a human sense, but deliberate. its spin adjusted precisely to minimize exposure during solar observation, as if to reduce scanning effectiveness. By the time it crossed Saturn's orbit, optical contact became impossible. The object faded, not in brightness, but in visibility, as though bending light itself. China's most recent release changed everything. Their newest composite, processed using the Long March relay data, revealed heat signatures consistent with internal activity. Temperatures fluctuated cyclically, faint but measurable, suggesting energy exchange within. The object wasn't inert, something inside it was alive, or operational. NASA's silence became deafening. For decades, the agency prided itself on transparency, public access, and open data. But now, their servers delivered only redirect errors and under-review banners. China's image drop was their way of saying, "We know." Whether it was defiance or warning, the message was unmistakable. The age of secrets in space was ending. Inside the images, digital archaeologists discovered a subtle curvature matching the golden ratio. Coincidence, perhaps, but too elegant to ignore. Many natural phenomena follow this ratio, yet its perfect expression in artificial design is nearly universal. To see it embedded in the geometry of 3I/ATLAS was like finding a fingerprint in the void. Amid the storm of denials, one undeniable truth remained. Both NASA and CNSA had detected something neither could explain away. The public only glimpsed fragments, but those fragments painted a coherent picture, one that hinted not at a new visitor, but an ancient return. The harmonics within its signal repeated a sequence matching the Fibonacci progression up to 144, then stopped. Why stop at 144? Because in base 12 counting systems used in ancient Mesopotamia, 144 represented completion. If someone, or something, wanted to announce its return to the descendants of an ancient world, this was how they'd do it. Not with words, but with math. By the time 3I/ATLAS exited the solar plane, its signal intensified briefly, transmitting one last pulse before silence. Radio arrays in China, Russia, and Australia all recorded it simultaneously. The waveform, when visualized, formed a symbol, a six-pointed geometry identical to the one faintly visible on its hull. The odds of coincidence were beyond astronomical. Then came the anomaly none could explain. 27 days after that final pulse, the James Webb Space Telescope detected a new, faint object entering the outer Kuiper Belt. It matched the trajectory of 3I/ATLAS, but moving opposite. NASA claimed it was unrelated debris, yet the Chinese models predicted its appearance precisely. If the object had split, one part may have stayed behind. Within the intelligence community, this triggered quiet panic. If one half remained in the solar system, it could be observing. The question whispered through classified corridors. Observing what? Or whom? Publicly, NASA prepared a mission concept, Project Artemis Beyond, ostensibly to study interstellar debris. Privately, leaked budget notes revealed specialized shielding and autonomous AI control protocols, more appropriate for contact than observation. The mission was abruptly postponed indefinitely. Meanwhile, independent astronomers continued analyzing the leaked Chinese imagery. Frame 122, the most controversial, appeared to show an opening, an aperture aligned with the object's equatorial seam. When digitally enhanced, the shadowing suggested depth, perhaps even a hollow core extending several kilometers inward. If that's true, 3I/ATLAS may not simply be a ship. It may be a vault traveling between stars, carrying records, or something far greater. Perhaps that was why NASA remained silent. Humanity is not ready to face its own origins when they drift back from the dark. As 3I/ATLAS faded into the black, the transmission ceased. But not entirely. Amateur ham operators across Europe and Asia reported faint, intermittent signals at the same prime intervals. They described it like an echo, faint, distant, repeating. When one operator mapped the intervals against time, the pattern formed coordinates. Those coordinates pointed, not outward, but back, to Earth's deserts, specifically to a region near southern Iraq, where decades earlier archaeologists had uncovered a sealed tomb attributed to Gilgamesh himself. The coincidence defied belief. Could there be a link between the legends of ancient star beings and the object drifting beyond Saturn? The pattern seemed to say yes, but perhaps it wasn't coincidence. Perhaps it was a reminder. NASA's own early 2000s internal documents referenced cultural containment protocols regarding possible extraterrestrial archaeology. Their fear wasn't invasion, it was revelation. to learn that the myths were memories, that the gods were engineers, would unravel everything humanity thought it understood about its place in the cosmos. China's quiet defiance, releasing images without commentary, was not merely scientific, it was philosophical. They understood that truth, once seen, cannot be unseen. The geometry, the signals, the patterns, they all pointed to a single unspoken conclusion. 3I/ATLAS was not a messenger, it was evidence. In one of her final interviews, Li Zhen said, "We always assumed the universe was silent because no one spoke, but perhaps it's been speaking in a language we forgot." Her words lingered like prophecy. Because within the golden lines of 3I/ATLAS's surface, in the echoes of its fading transmission, and in the symbols carved across its hull, humanity might be glimpsing a reflection of itself. Now, as the object drifts into the outer dark, China's final transmission log records a last unexplained flash, brighter than any reflection, lasting only seconds. In that moment, instruments across the world detected a narrow beam frequency directed precisely toward Earth. It contained no message, no modulation, just a constant tone. But hidden within that tone was a harmonic resonance matching Earth's own Schumann frequency, the pulse of our planet's electromagnetic heartbeat. It was as though the object recognized where it had come from, or where it was meant to return. And so, while NASA remains silent and China withholds commentary, one truth remains suspended between the stars. Whatever 3I/ATLAS is, it is not gone. It is waiting, watching, remembering. Perhaps it always has been, because sometimes the greatest secrets of the universe are not discovered. They come home. The weeks following that last flash brought an eerie quiet across the global astronomy community. Observatories that once shared data openly now found their channels encrypted, their transmissions rerouted through unfamiliar servers. It was as if an invisible hand had swept across the world's telescopes, dimming their eyes, muting their voices. And yet, amid that silence, something subtle began to stir. Readings too faint for official acknowledgement, too precise to dismiss as noise. In December, a handful of amateur astronomers in Inner Mongolia recorded a weak infrared glow emanating from the far reaches of the Kuiper Belt. The signal pulsed slowly, each surge separated by exactly 864 seconds, the same interval encoded in the last transmission from 3I/ATLAS. Coincidence was possible, but unlikely. Pattern was certain. What had vanished into the dark was whispering again, faintly, rhythmically, as if breathing. Chinese analysts cross-referenced the faint light pattern with the object's projected trajectory. To their astonishment, it no longer aligned. 3I/ATLAS had shifted course, not by accident, but through deliberate correction. Its vector now angled subtly back toward the ecliptic plane, toward the inner system, toward us. No official statement was made, but fragments of conversation leaked from a CNSA control room. One engineer, speaking off record, said, "It's not gone. It changed its mind." His words spread across encrypted forums like wildfire. If true, then the object's movement was not random. It had observed, calculated, and decided. In Washington, emergency meetings unfolded beneath the unyielding lights of undisclosed conference rooms. NASA's leadership, flanked by representatives from the Department of Defense, debated how to contain the narrative. There was no denying the motion data. JPL's own instruments confirmed the vector shift, yet they refused to call it controlled, insisting instead on unexplained gravitational drift. The words felt hollow, like an echo rehearsed too many times. Back in Beijing, CNSA's astrophysicists worked through the night. Their spectrographs caught faint energy spikes within the returning glow, low-frequency emissions unlike any natural object. When the waveform was translated into audio, it produced a deep, resonant hum, hauntingly melodic. Sound engineers slowed it down and layered it across time. The result was stunning. The pitch progression mirrored ancient pentatonic scales used in Sumerian and early Chinese ritual music. Coincidence again? Or something far deeper? An echo encoded in the very mathematics of sound, shared across civilizations separated by millennia and light years? As news of the discovery seeped through underground science channels, fear and fascination intertwined. If 3I/ATLAS was indeed returning, what was it returning for? Humanity had always imagined first contact as a sudden event, a ship descending, a broadcast received. But what if contact had already begun, slowly, subtly, through the reawakening of something once forgotten? Li Zhen's name resurfaced. Though she had vanished from public life, Anonymous posts appeared on academic message boards under her old identifier. The messages were brief, but unmistakably hers. Golden ratios converge, not alien, not human, both. Scholars debated her meaning endlessly. Some claimed she was describing a shared ancestral link, a cosmic origin myth disguised as data. Others feared she was hinting at something more literal, that whatever built 3I/ATLAS had seeded both its vessel and its message here long before humanity learned to look up. NASA's official stance grew increasingly fragile. A leaked memo titled Public Contingency Framework, Extraterrestrial Artifacts revealed internal disagreements. One section proposed controlled disclosure through cinematic media and speculative fiction, normalizing the concept before official confirmation. Another insisted total suppression. The debate itself confirmed what many already suspected. They had seen the same images China had, and those images were real. When a European research satellite unintentionally captured a time-lapse of 3I/ATLAS's region, it showed a brief shimmer, then disappearance. Scientists at the European Space Agency confirmed that the object's albedo had spiked dramatically, suggesting a reflective release, possibly a deployment of smaller components. Theories ranged from automated drones to data pods. One fragment appeared to alter trajectory toward the inner system. NASA labeled it dust fragmentation, yet telescopes in Australia continued tracking it, recording deliberate course corrections. Weeks later, an inexplicable anomaly struck Earth's magnetosphere. For 6 minutes, sensors registered a harmonic vibration, identical in frequency to the Schumann resonance pulse recorded during the final flash. Power grids flickered, satellite signals stuttered, and seismographs around the world drew synchronized sine waves. To most, it was a technical glitch. To those who knew of 3I/ATLAS, it felt like a handshake. In Iraq, deep in the ruins once identified with ancient Uruk, excavation teams reopened the site near the so-called Tomb of Gilgamesh. They reported unusual electromagnetic interference corrupting their instruments. Then, according to leaked photos, they found something, a small metallic plate etched with 6 interlocking hexagons, identical to the markings seen on 3I/ATLAS's hull. The artifact was confiscated within hours by a multinational task force under UNESCO authority, escorted by American personnel. No official report ever followed. The link between the heavens and the sands grew impossible to ignore. The hexagon, the frequency, the ratio, all threads woven through the fabric of myth and mathematics. Across online communities, a new hypothesis took shape. 3I/ATLAS wasn't just an object returning to its origin. It was responding to a call. Perhaps something buried beneath Earth's deserts had reawakened first, sending the pulse that drew its twin back home. Li Zhen's final anonymous message appeared days later. The vault opens both ways. Then her account vanished forever. In the months that followed, ground-based observatories in Chile and South Africa detected flashes of reflected sunlight at consistent intervals. Each flash lasted precisely 12 seconds, separated by 144 minutes. The symmetry was unmistakable. 12, 144, numbers of completion. When converted to binary timestamps, the intervals spelled a date, December 21st, 2025. The date loomed like prophecy. Governments dismissed the idea, but behind closed doors, observatories were ordered to remain fully staffed through that solstice. In Beijing, Tianwen's operators recalibrated their long-range arrays, preparing for whatever might happen. As the date approached, cosmic quiet thickened. Then, on the morning of the 21st, the Deep Space Network recorded a faint return ping from beyond Neptune, a coherent beam aimed directly at Earth. Within the signal, analysts discovered a modulation pattern containing 64 repeating elements, each corresponding to the structure of DNA codons. It was as though the message itself mirrored the blueprint of life. That night, radio telescopes across 6 continents locked onto the same source. The transmission grew stronger, more rhythmic, until it became audible, a deep vibration that could be felt in the bones rather than heard. And then, in perfect synchrony, seismographs in Mesopotamia registered a low tremor beneath the ruins of Uruk. The frequencies matched. Something above and something below were resonating together. In the aftermath, global networks suffered inexplicable outages. The James Webb Space Telescope went offline for 21 minutes, during which its sensors recorded an intense flash from the region once occupied by 3I/ATLAS. When it came back online, there was nothing. No trace of the object, no residual trail. It had vanished again, but the Schumann resonance on Earth had permanently increased by 0.8 Hertz. The planet's heartbeat had changed. Some claimed the event was an exchange, an ancient mechanism completing its cycle. Others believed humanity had unknowingly triggered a beacon, but for the scientists who had watched the data unfold, there was a quiet awe, a sense that something vast had acknowledged them. NASA's official statement the following week was curt and sterile. No anomalous activity detected. Yet deep within their own encrypted telemetry logs, one final entry was redacted, except for a single phrase: signal acknowledged. And so the world continued, outwardly unchanged, yet subtly shifted. Radio noise carried faint harmonic traces of the vanished pulse. The Iraqi sands shimmered under strange magnetic currents. And high above, somewhere between the planets, an unseen watcher moved silently through the dark, its purpose unknown, its presence undeniable. Perhaps 3I/ATLAS had come to remind humanity that the universe's secrets are never lost, only waiting for the moment we dare to see them again. Perhaps what NASA hid and China revealed was not a threat, but a mirror, a reflection of what we once were and what we might still become. The silence of space remains, but now, within that silence, something listens.